Good morning. How many of you are perfect? You've never made a mistake. You'd like to find out more about what it's like? No, we all make mistakes. So what should we do when we make mistakes? I love what James, the half-brother of Jesus, says, chapter 4, verse 10. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and He will lift you up. Don't exalt yourself. Don't try to say, oh, I'm better than I really am. No, humble yourself before God. He'll lift you up. Going to share some thoughts I picked up from the book Glory Days by Max Lucado. Everybody falls down. The question is, what are we going to do? What's our response when we mess up? Some, just like, well, I'm just going to go hang out in the pit of guilt. How long do you have to stay in the pit of guilt? Is there some place in the Bible that says, after you do something wrong, stay in the pit of guilt for exactly... No, it's not there. God doesn't want you to hang out there. That's not why Jesus went to the cross, so you could suffer a little guilt, less guilt, temporary guilt. No, other people, instead of going to guilt, they just tumble into the arms of God. Romans chapter 8, verse 4 talks about walking according to the Spirit, being guided back into relationship with God, because when we feel guilty, sometimes we should. I know people that feel guilty when they shouldn't. You tell them, you should not feel guilty for that. And other times people are like, I don't feel guilty. You should feel guilty for that. You know, pray that God uses your conscience correctly, because sometimes they get a little off. I wish there was an app. It was like a conscience adjustment app that would just make our conscience align with God's Spirit. Jesus told an epic story. It's called the story of the prodigal son. It's in Luke chapter 15. And he'd made a mess out of his life. And he wasn't going to solve all of his problems overnight. But you know what? He started with this resolution: I will arise and go to my father. Most of you know the story. He'd run off, blown off, used up all of his inheritance in riotous living, to quote Jesus of Nazareth, the movie. And then his story kind of comes to a dead end in a pig pen. That's not a good thing. And so then he's feeding the pigs, and he's thinking, my dad's servants back home are eating better than I am. I mean, and what he's feeding the pigs starts to look good to him. That's when you know it's time to change your ways. So he made a decision that changed his life forever. That's the one I read. I will arise and go to my father. Might not solve all your problems right away, but you can make that decision today. You can kind of wallow in your pig pen of guilt or whatever else and say, I made a mess out of this. Or you can say today, I'm going to go to my father. He'll have the answers, and I think he'll be merciful to me. It's not going to untangle everything all at once. That's a lifelong process. But you can arise today and go to your Heavenly Father. Step out. The Apostle Paul put it this way: forgetting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead. How many of you have something from yesterday you'd like to forget? Something from the last week? Forget about it. You can't do anything about that. Rise up, step out, go to your Father, forget what lies behind you, and look for the future. To quote Max, there ain't no future in the past. You can't change yesterday, but you can do something about tomorrow. And it starts today. God bless you. Arise and turn to your Father.